the secret factory when things weren't going well, when they had issues with paying their debts because of the bank was frozen. They straight up told their partner, Mr. Ito, Ito saved them. But they just had radical honesty. And then the next thing they did was they took bets on people. They took big bets and they weren't afraid of making mistakes on innovation. They had some innovative shoes that didn't go well. They were absolute failures. They had to do recalls. And people encouraged that level of edginess because a lot of people weren't innovating shoes. And for them to make a shoe and it needing a recall, they got zero backlash because they were trying. They were trying to do something innovative. And then they were taking bets on people. One of these rock star, famous track athletes was Steve Prefontaine, which he went by Pre. And Pre was an amazing athlete, insane. He'd broken the mile and all sorts of records. I think he had American records from the 2,000 meter all the way to the 10,000 meter. He held the records. And he was an insane athlete, was in the Olympics when he was 18 and was a world star also from Oregon. And he couldn't work. He was a world famous athlete and was known everywhere. He was a celebrity. But since he was a professional Olympic athlete, he couldn't make any money. He couldn't take endorsements. He couldn't work a job that he could use his expertise for. He had to take odd jobs like bartending and races in Europe and different places and getting paid by running promoters. That wasn't good for Pre. And they recognized that. So they paid him. They offered him a job for publicity and they sponsored him as an athlete and they made him a full-time employee where he'd travel the country and he would do running clinics and seminars and sign and do autographs. And that was his job and he loved it. And then he would train. But they made it right because Pre was having a hard time running all those races. It was taking a wear on his body because he didn't know when to slow down. And the sad part about this is Pre had a tragic accident when he was driving home one time. And apparently he hit a boulder and the car flipped him out and the car fell on him and crushed him, which was a very sad part of the book and definitely a sad story. Okay, burnout. They talk about burnout and the psychological toll that building Nike had. And it was from Phil's perspective, but one of the things that Phil started with when Nike was starting to scale and he was getting stressed out is he would have rubber bands on his wrist and he would just pop his wrists with the rubber band nonstop. He'd be fidgeting and popping the band, getting a fresh one on there and then just popping the band on his wrist.